It's October, let's get HalloWeird. Hi guys and welcome to today's video. It's a story time about a museum that I used to work at that was haunted, or in my opinion was haunted. Now I'm not going to name the museum. I'm not going to name the museum because it's a very conservative place, let's say. It's quite a Christian town and they don't really like any association with Halloween or the paranormal, and I don't want to give the museum any bad press because I really love them there. So I won't name it, but it is in Suffolk, and it's sort of like a big open air museum. So if you know British museums, it's a little bit like Wilden Downland, a little bit like Beamish, but just on a smaller scale, and it focuses on like rural life, and yeah, they sort of rescue buildings from all over and put them to good use, repair them, that sort of thing, let the general public see them. Now, three stories that I am going to tell you, two of them are from my own experiences, and then one is just one that the historian told me, and they are actually about two buildings that were built on the museum. They haven't been rescued or anything like that. That is original properties to the land, and I think that's quite a big thing because sometimes I believe that spirits can travel with physical materials, so like stone and mortar, like stone tape theory. Anyway, the first story I am going to tell you is the story, and I might be a bit rusty on this because I haven't heard it in a while, but it's the story that I haven't experienced. So, the building is like the grand house of the town, you know, like you always have that one big house that the rich people lived in. It's in that building, and the museum has been open for around 50 years now, so it's pretty old anyway. But they used to do a lot of community events. They still do community events, but they used to do a lot of community events with the family that owned the house, and I want to say this happened in the 70s, but I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I'm a bit rusty on these stories. But they had a May Day celebration. If you don't know what May Day is, it's kind of like, ironically, a bit of a pagan thing where you celebrate the start of summer and you dance around Maypole and there's Morris dancing. I don't really know. I haven't done May. I was a May Queen. I don't know. It's a very old country tradition. Anyway, they were putting on a play, I want to say Midsummer Night's Dream, let's say Midsummer Night's Dream, and they had set it in the Victorian times, and all the cast members were using the house to get ready in, and then the play was going to be out on the back lawn of the house. So they were using it to get ready and, you know, run rehearsals and all of that. And in the house, as you walk in, there is a big sweeping staircase that goes up to the first floor. And some of the cast members were waiting downstairs for others to arrive. And down the stairs came this very, very well dressed, like, their costumes would have been sort of amateur, but this guy, like, he'd really gone to town on his costume, and he came down the stairs and he kept asking what was going on, and they just assumed, oh, like, he's going to be in the play, like, I don't know, who is this guy? And then they all left and took positions to do the play and whatnot, and the guy was nowhere to be seen. So the cast members kept asking around the locals or the family that owned the house, and no one had known this guy, no one knew where he'd come from, no one else had seen him, and the only conclusion that they could come to was that it was a previous resident, actually from the Victorian times, who had come back to see what was going on with his house. Now, I actually had an experience in that house. It had some very, very creepy rooms. There were some rooms that I really liked, and then other rooms that they just sort of gave you the heebie-jeebies, and you didn't really like to be in them, and you wanted to not spend that much time in them. And obviously, like, cellars and basements have that horrible damp vibe to them, and it's the same with attics. And these were two areas of the museum that visitors weren't allowed in because of like health and safety rules and things like that, but I had to go and do quite a lot of work in them. Like the boiler and everything was in the basement, and then upstairs what in the attics were like all our filings and where we kept like event stuff and all of that sort of thing. And so I used to have to go up there quite a lot, and they did give me the heebie-jeebies, but weirdly enough, the room that I liked the most, there was two rooms that I really liked, and one had like that real snuggly feeling, like I think it must have been an office, and it was just like a really nice warm room. It was always warm. And then upstairs, which apparently was the nursery, but I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me. That room also had like a really nice light airy vibe to it, and that's actually where I think I heard the noises coming from. Now I don't know if I'm actually hearing, like if I'm hearing that in my head or because of what I heard, but basically I used to have to open and close the house, and if we didn't have any volunteers in to sort of be the front of house staff, then I would have to go and be that as well. So one day, it was winter, so it used to get dark about 4, and we used to close the house at 5. I was sat downstairs in like my little cubby hole officey bit, and I was about to lock up, so it's about 10 to 5. I had my keys and everything like that, and I hadn't had any visitors. Like there's only 2 doors the visitors could use, the front door, and then there was like an access door for wheelchairs and things like that that had a ramp and like a lifty thing. But anyway, I hadn't heard anyone come through that door because it's very obvious, because it has a very large thump and then you hear the lift go up. So I knew someone hadn't come through that door, and I knew no one could come in through the other doors because they'd have to walk past me. Oh yeah, there was a conservatory entrance as well, but you'd have to walk past me to get into the house. And then obviously the front door was right in front of me, and I heard upstairs like pitter patter of little feet. It wasn't floorboards up there, it had a carpet. Downstairs was floorboards, but I heard like this pitter patter of little feet, and then just like a ha ha ha, like a little laugh. And honestly, I jumped out my skin because I thought, well, no one's in the house, no one has come past me, I haven't heard the lift, there could be just a child in here by themselves. So I went upstairs because, you know, the museum was going to be closing in 10 minutes. So I needed to go and tell them, look guys, it's okay, you can keep walking around, but I will be closing the doors in 10 minutes. So I went upstairs and there was no one. Like, I even went and asked in the office where I usually work if they'd heard any children or anything like that. And I radioed over to one of the museum assistants out on site. Is there any families out there still, because I think I've got a child in the house. And there was no one at the museum, there was no one on site. So I had heard this child pitter-patter running around in that nursery room that had the really nice vibe to it, and then a little laughter, which I thought actually, it creeped me out at the time, but it's kind of nice that it was like a little friendly child spirit. The second story is from the workers' cottages, which are actually located outside the main gates of the museum, and you have to have a tour guide go in with you. But I wasn't on a tour or anything like that. I think again this was winter. It was winter because the museum actually closes the buildings off for like the cold season. So from about November to March, I think, the buildings are closed to the public unless you want a personal tour. And we'd have like, I think it was like a gas meter reading or electricity meter reading, you know, one of those. But the engineer came out and I needed to go around all the buildings and show him where the meters were and stuff like that, so he could do the readings. So I grabbed the keys and we potted down to the house. Now, don't forget, this house has been closed for probably about 3 months at this point. We occasionally go in to like air it out so it doesn't get damp and musty, but other than that, there's no one that goes in them. They are so tightly secured. There is a alarm that will go off if you break and enter, because before they've taken over those buildings, we did have some problems with squatters, I forgot what they were called. So I was a bit worried that there would be some of those, but I kept being reassured, don't worry, so-and-so's been in there last week, it's all fine, there's nothing wrong in there, and don't forget the alarm will go off, so we know no one's been in there. So went down, had the keys, turned off the alarm, we went through. Now it's 2 cottages that have been combined into one, and upstairs there are very, very like old floorboards, you know, with really thin carpet, so it's not pure floorboard, but you can hear any sound that goes up there basically. And we went through, so we walked down the long corridor, and we got about halfway down, and we heard someone peg it, I mean run as fast as they can, because it had 2 staircases in it, so they had 2 escape routes. Peg it from one end of the house all the way down to the other end of the other house. Now I looked at the meter reading man, whatever his name was, let's call him Steve. We looked at Steve, I looked at Steve, Steve looked at me, and I said I need to go up there and I need to make sure that there's no one up there. When the alarm hadn't gone off, I'd had to turn the alarm off myself, so it couldn't have been a person, but I don't know if it was an animal or something like that, but I had to go up and look at myself. Now I sort of went into like fight or flight mode, and I went fighty. Like I was like, if this is a person, I'm gonna get them out of my museum. I thought I'd be really scared, but I ran up the stairs, and these stairs are like super steep because they're really old, and I ran from one end of the house to the other, like busting open all the doors. Who's in there? What is going on? There was no one. There was no one in any of the rooms, and I remember the only bit that I was really scared at, there used to be a door that blocked one cottage from the other, and I think the only bit that I was scared of, I was like, I'd swept the whole of the first cottage, and the only thing that I was scared about was opening this other door and there being someone on the other side, because that staircase was a lot harder to get down than that first staircase, and I thought I really don't want to chase them down this like rickety old staircase. But like I said, there was absolutely no one up there. It was so creepy, and I went downstairs, and Steve, I said there's no one up there, but we both heard it. So this wasn't just me being absolutely paranoid and scared about going into an old building that hadn't been opened for a couple of months. This was, we both heard it, and there is no way that person could have got out, because you'd have had to have opened the doors, and the doors all had latches. You would have heard them like running down the stairs. I hadn't opened the back door yet, so they would have had to have run past me. I don't know what that was, and to this day that gives me the shivers. So guys, that brings me to the end of this HalloWeird episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stick around to see what else I have coming up in October. It's all going to be paranormal themed, it's all going to be Halloween themed. Super excited about it. If you have liked this video, then please give me a thumbs up and a comment below. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you think I'm just absolutely crazy for hearing these things at where I used to work? Love to hear what you think. And if you would like to see more of what I have in October and in the future, obviously, it would be great if you could subscribe to me. Until next time, guys, bye!